Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Health Coach for Women, a podcast where we explore alternative solutions for better health and wellness. And I am your host, Marsha. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a question for you, not a quote, but what do you think, or what comes to mind when you hear the word submission, or when you hear submit to your husband? How do you take that? How does it make you feel? What are your thoughts on that? That's what we'll be exploring today. All right. First, let me just go over the definition of what the Oxford language is saying, that the definition is of the word submission. Okay. So it is the action or fact of accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person. Okay, so that is what the word submission is. So it's submitting your will to another. Okay, so whether it be to your husband or to a higher power, all right, such as the Creator. So let's dive into that just a little further. So when we talk about the word submission, right, and the word submitting to your husband, does that mean that we're giving up our freedoms? Does it mean that we are being obedient with no say, no rights, no voice of our own? Basically, is you can still have a voice. You can still be able to be who you are, but just by giving and doing the act of love. And that comes through submission to your husband. So let us dive into that some more. So let's look at exploring the concept of submission in modern relationships. Now, this may vary from different cultures, right? When I refer to submission as far as our culture here, but it can apply anywhere because it doesn't follow these certain man-made laws, right? It's the laws of the higher power, the laws of the Creator. And so when we explore the submission, what are we talking about? What are we basically saying? Well, when we submit to our husbands, right, we're talking about allowing our husbands to lead us, right? We are giving him the authority over us to protect us, to guide us, support us. And it in itself, the submission in itself is an act of love. It is an act of service, right? Because when you submit to your husband, you are also allowing the submission to God, right? God, Allah, the Creator, Yeshua, whoever, whatever name you choose to call it. We are allowing ourselves to fully submit to the higher power. All right. And so that's what that means. It does not mean that we give up being who we are, right? It doesn't mean that we give up being and losing our own identity. That's not what it means. And I know that a lot of many women have an issue with the word submission or obedient, right? Especially that word obedient, right? They have an issue with that word. And even myself back in the day, right? Obedient? Wait a minute. A dog is obedient, right? And so I had to learn, right? I had to learn, and I wasn't where I am now. I didn't have the awareness as I have now. Okay. So I want to discuss that. And it's so important that I would say, when we're looking at societal stereotypes, because we know that in society we're full of stereotypes, right? And the man can do certain things where women cannot, or the woman's place is in a kitchen, okay? And that may be fine in some places. And really, it's between that man and that woman, what they choose and what they decide to do in their relationship. That's totally their choice, right? And so remember that we always have free will, but there's so many misconceptions when we look at that word, to submitting. There's so many misconceptions around that, based on various cultures and how we view the world in society, and trying to fit into those societal stereotypes or not, right? But the bottom line is the woman's role in the relationship, right? The woman's role and how she is a helpmate to her partner, right? And how her relationship is with her partner, how her bonding, her connection to her partner, that she chose to be her life partner. These things are important. And so when we lose the ego, right? When we lose the ego and we let go of the ego, we are then able to fully be free to submit and to fully have an open heart as well as an open mind when it comes to marriage. So we must have open communication, right? We have to have open communication and mutual consent. It should never be where one person has the ability make decisions and do things without that mutual agreement, right? Because that's where the communication comes in. Now, in every relationship is different, right? So I'm not saying this is not a one size fit all, but every relationship is different. So, but as a woman, when we choose to make that man our spouse, when we choose to make that man our husband, we are then giving him the right to be our protector, to be the man who leads, the person who leads the household, right? We're giving him that dominion over us, so to speak, right? But still, where we are still able to be who we are and to still be able to express ourselves in a manner respectfully, honestly, and respectfully. And if you honor your husband in a loving, supportive way, you will see that in turn, it will be reciprocated, right? It will be reciprocated back to you. And so that's how we have to look at it. And it's all in how your perception, it's all in how you view things. Again, things are different in various cultures in different parts of the world, right? But that is something different altogether. But the role of the wife, the woman itself, we're outside of culture and outside of geographic location. The role of a wife herself, the role of that woman when she chooses to make that man her husband, what she should be doing as a wife. What's most important is what's in the heart, right? And so, but we want to still carry out the role of the woman who is of piety, dignity, grace, respect, loving, kind, compassionate, right? Empathetic, all of these things to be a better person, not just for ourselves, but for our mates, for our spouses, right? And so that leads me into going into the next segment of today's topic, right? Building trust and nurturing a foundation of love and respect, because that's important. So without respect, what do you have? You have nothing. And a component of that respect is just allowing that person to fully express themselves, right? Allowing that person to fully express themselves in a way that, of course, is respectful to others, right? Allowing them to be who they are, right? Without trying to make someone become who they don't want to be, who they choose not to be. It's all about the person being who they want to be and allowing that person to freely be themselves, right? Allowing that person to fully be themselves. And us as the woman, our job is to, naturally, our job is nurturing, right? But to fully nurture, love, and support our spouse, even though there may be some things that we may or may not fully agree with or fully have a level of understanding with, right? And so when you know and understand your spouse, right? You live with that person and you know their routine, you know what they like, you know the foods that they like, you know the things that they don't like, right? And so with that, this is how we can now say, okay, I know that, okay, he likes this in the morning, he likes this a certain way, and being able to provide that for him and do the things that he would want and desire before even asking, right? And before even asking, all right? And so your part of your job is to be that supporter, to be that nurturer, because even though they are the leader, right, and the head of the household, right? If you are in a marriage, right, for your with your husband, even though you are in that relationship, right, he still wants your love and support also, right? He still may want your opinion, and right, and may even ask for your guidance, right, on certain things, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you may be better at something than he's better at. And so he will come to you as your mate, as your best friend, as his supporter and helpmate, right? He will come to you and may ask for decisions. So it may help for asking and making guidance or making sound decisions, right? And there is nothing wrong with that. And so it's important to be able to have that strong level of trust and love for one another. But the trust is so important, right? Because it sets the foundation of the relationship. It truly does. And having trust in a relationship is vital to its survival of the relationship, as well as respect, right? And so when we are able to communicate effectively, right? When we are both able to communicate effectively, it only brings about stronger and more lasting bonds, right, in the relationships. Okay. And so emotional, right? Emotional, and we have to foster emotional intimacy, right? We are naturally emotional beings, us as women, right? And so sometimes we can be more sensitive than a man would be, right? And so he should have clear knowledge and understanding of that, right? Or I should say even overstanding, because once he's known you and know the things that may get to you, or know things that may trigger certain emotions, right? The goal is not to do things that is going to be hurtful towards you, but to be a support system for you, right? And so we know that no relationship is perfect. We also know that in relationships, things could be where, again, depending on each person's own individual relationship and personal experiences, things will be different, right? And so an arranged marriage would be different from, would be a little different than someone who just had the story of meeting this person, you walking in the park, and he grabbed you, he noticed you, and he gave you a nice compliment, and then you guys had an elevated conversation, and now you exchange numbers, and you fell in love at first sight, all that good stuff, right? And so it's a little different, but we want to be able to in the relationship to do our part as the woman of being playing the supportive role, being that supportive woman and supportive helpmate to our husbands, and what he is doing, and what he is striving for, and not beat them over the head over the things of what they are not doing, right? And so you empower someone by giving them encouragement, right? And this works for anyone, even a child, right? You empower a child by encouraging them and showing them support and letting them know, oh, you got it, you can do it. I believe in you. You're almost there. Giving them encouraging, positive words. So because we know that positivity it brings about more of a positive change in an individual, right? And so we know this. So balancing individuality and partnership, embracing empowerment, right? So that leads me into the next segment of this topic for today. So being able to look at or examine the cross between the personal growth, right? As we tend to, as we get older, we learn more and we do more. And so as we learn more, we do better. So as we grow and evolve, things will not stay the same, right? Because change is constant, right? Change is necessary for growth. And I'm always saying that change is necessary for growth. And so without growth, you have stagnation, right? And so you don't want to be stuck. You'll notice that things will change, right? And sometimes you'll come to that fork in a road where you're going one way and the person is going another way. But in that aspect, right? In that aspect, when we look at it, it could be where, and this is where people say, well, we just grew apart, things for us changed, this person is going here and this person is here, right? It happens in a relationship. It happens. And you don't always share the same ideals. And that's why the relationship itself, being in a marriage, it's truly a journey, right? It's your own personal journey, but it's also the journey along that you're on with your spouse. And so relationship, because when we choose our mate, we choose our spouse, we're choosing to be in this long-term life partnership, right? Oh, I'll marry him. We can stay married for 2 years and then we'll move on. No, it's that life partnership, right? It's that life partnership and choosing to grow and mature and evolve together, right? And so allowing that person to be them and still having your own personal identity is important, right? It's important. So we have to do that. So, and part of that, when we look at the role of submission, is allowing that person to have and setting personal boundaries, whether it be for yourself, right, and for your husband. We all need to have some personal boundaries. An example of that, just having some personal boundaries, is having your own me time, right? Just having your own me time where you want to sit and reflect, or maybe your own personal me time of self-care, right? Going to the spa, relaxing, getting a foot massage, whatever it is, and respecting that person's personal boundaries, right? Because again, comes respect, right? And having the ability to have personal boundaries without it being an issue for either person. That's so important. And so your role, and when you practice self-care um, within the role of a submissive dynamic, right? What am I saying? Well, what I'm basically saying is being able to explore personal boundaries and being sure and ensuring that both parties that their needs are met, right? And it promotes emotional well-being, and it establishes that foundation of trust as well as mutual respect. So let's look at the concept now of the 5 love languages, right? That is the book that was written by Gary Chapman, right? Let's look at the concept of that and understanding and applying the love languages in your relationship and how that plays a role in submission, right? And so these are important. Let's take a look at the first one, which is words of affirmations, right? So in a submissive partnership, husbands can use words of affirmations to express, which I already mentioned, and encouragement for their wives, just as the roles can be reversed, such as the woman using words of affirmation, right? And appreciation and encouragement towards her husband. That is important. Words of affirmation. What about acts of service, right? Doing acts of service. You, the wife, can show your love and support by taking on responsibilities and tasks that alleviates your husband's burden, right? And so one of the things that I do for my husband is I iron his clothes for work, okay? I iron his clothes. Now, mind you, I never care for ironing, right? I never care for ironing. I never care to even iron my own clothes, right? But I've learned to do things that would help him and save him time, right? Instead of having him always having to iron and get his clothes ready. When I get my things ready, I get his things ready, right? And so even if I don't get my things ready, if I'm not even ironing, I still will go ahead and iron his clothes. So it's what they call the little things mean a lot. Okay, and so these are acts of service without that person asking, right? And so without that person even asking, you provide acts of service, you lessen the burden of your husband, right? And what it does is creates the environment of mutual care as well as consideration, and it enhances that person's giving them that sense of security and reinforcing their willingness to submit, right? And so that's my willingness. I'm freely willing to submit because I'm not asked to iron the clothes. I do it on my own accord without him asking, right? And so, and I'm fine with that. Okay. And so what do I receive? Let's move on to number 2, receiving gifts. Ooh, I like receiving gifts. I'm sure many of you like receiving gifts. Okay. But what about for your spouse? Receiving gifts. What about you being able to demonstrate your love and appreciation by giving him a gift? You showing your love and appreciation for what your husband does for you, and you provide him with a meaningful gift. Maybe he just wanted something simple as he's been wanting a new watch, and you notice that his watch has been broken, and you went out and bought him a nice new watch. You know, little simple things like that. Okay, little simple things like that. And so let's move on to number 4, which is quality time, right? Quality time. I love spending quality time. Okay, and spending quality time together allows couples to connect emotionally and to deepen their bond. It deepens the bond. So dedicating uninterrupted time for conversation or movie night, that would fall under activities, movie night, and mutual understanding. It can bring about a sense of unity and also reinforce the whole dynamics of submission. All right. And let's move on to the fifth love language, which is physical touch. All right. Physical affection. Now, this plays an important role in any relationship, okay, including a submissive one. So for husbands and wives, intentional and loving physical touch, such as hugs, kisses, just gentle gestures, it can convey care and comfort for intimacy and strengthen emotional connections between the two, which is a beautiful thing, right? And so I talked about this before in another previous episode about love language, that I know that my husband's primary love language is acts of service. I may not have mentioned that one too, but with a physical touch, but in general, acts of service, right? Doing acts of service. He loves giving. He's a giving person, which is a beautiful quality that he has, Okay. And so it's important to note that love languages, they're not exclusive to just any one gender, right? To the man or the woman within the marriage. But both individuals, the husband and the wife, can express and receive love using any type of the five languages. And they can serve as a way, framework for understanding and meeting each other's needs. And this is how you can strengthen bonds and have a fuller, healthier, lasting relationship. Okay. And that comes included in the context within submission. And so I hope that you found this episode valuable, useful. Submission doesn't mean that you are giving up your own identity. It doesn't mean that, okay, well, you are just a slave to your husband and it doesn't mean that. It's your perception and how you view it. Submission is only a way that you are choosing, right? You're choosing to allow your man to lead. You are allowing him to guide you, and you are allowing him to be that supporter, protector, and you encourage him in the things that he's doing, in the things to maintain the household and keeping the family unit together. You are his helpmate. You are his biggest supporter. You should be. And if you aren't, you should be his biggest fan, his biggest supporter, right? And you should be able to do things for him without him asking. And it shouldn't be an issue. Recognize that you was a gift. You was a gift created by the Most High, the Creator, right? The Creator of the world, to be a part of God's creation, right? You are a part of his creation, and to be a gift to the man to share in companionship, right? And so, but to be that companion, so be that supporter and that companion. So if you're going to be something, be good at it, be great at it, be the best at it, be that. So you don't have to worry about other things. You don't have to worry about anyone else, because you know your role. You know what you do and what you bring to the table. Okay. And so that's all I have for you for now. Please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.
If you are struggling with health issues like chronic pain, being held back by past traumas, or feeling overwhelmed and hopeless, please know there is hope. There is help. Transcendence, a woman's guide to healing and self-love for better health, happiness, and abundance, is a blueprint to help you get your life back and reclaim your health. Within its pages, you'll learn how to elevate your existence by shifting your mindset toward the positive, focusing your energy on what's really important, using gratitude to feel deep appreciation, changing your gene expression through epigenetics, building resilience, and living in a state of flow, feeling love overflow within. Go beyond an ordinary life. Transcend. Buy it now.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.